Hello everyone, welcome back. So we are into the first video of the series of quadratic equation. So we are going to discuss all the basic aspect of it, okay, which we might need further on in the topic. Fine. So guys, what is a quadratic equation? ये होता क्या है? And how do you identify it's a quadratic equation? Now let's say if I write a polynomial y is equal to ax square plus bx plus c मैंने लिख दिया, ठीक है. Now when you see the highest power, तो highest power इस equation में क्या है? Highest power इस equation में 2 है, right? What we call this? We call this as degree. So अगर कोई भी equation का highest power होता है तो हम उसे degree बोलते हैं. So whenever the degree of any equation is 2, we call that as a quadratic equation. Simple funda है, ठीक है. सो दिस पॉलिनोमियल इज नथिंग बट अ क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनोमियल, राइट. अगर किसी भी इक्वेशन का 3 डिग्री होता है तो वी कॉल दैट एज क्यूबिक इक्वेशन एंड सो ऑन, राइट. ओके, नाउ so how does this polynomial became a equation, right? So when we equate this y is equal to 0, then we have this equation as ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. ये मेरा बन गया quadratic equation now, right? Okay. Now, so what is the condition for this to be a quadratic equation? The only condition is that coefficient of x square, that is a here, should not be equal to 0. So a should not be equal to 0. You just need to remember. क्या होगा अगर a 0 हो जाएगा तो when a is 0 this only remains as bx plus c. तो ये क्या हो जाएगा? सिर्फ लीनियर इक्वेशन बन के रह जाएगा, ये क्वाड्रेटिक नहीं होगा, ठीक है. सो बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग. नाउ सो यू माइट बी थिंकिंग कि सर आपने y इज इक्वल टू 0 क्यों किया. नाउ गाइस, अगर इस पोलिनोमियल को अगर आराम से देखोगे y इज इक्वल टू ax स्क्वायर bx प्लस c, ठीक है. So I know that a, b and c is a constant here, right? We all know that. Now if you keep putting different values of x, let's say if I put x is equal to 1 or x is equal to 2, if I put x is equal to 3 and so on, I'll keep getting different values of y. So y will be something else, or y2 will be something else for sure, y3 will be something else, because I keep on changing the value of x, right? And it keeps on going something like this. So when you draw a graph here, so this graph will be something like this, right? Either it might be an upper facing parabola, something like this, and all these points are nothing but, let's say, x1 y1, x2 y2, right, x3 y3. So यहाँ पे जब देखोगे, these two will be, so here the value of x is going to be 0, and let's say this is a, okay, and here also the value of, I'm sorry, I think just the opposite, here the value of y is going to be 0, and again let's say I can put this as b comma 0, okay. So the value of y is going to be 0 here. Now, so it might happen that you might have an upper facing parabola or the lower facing parabola. It is also possible that you might get something inverse of this, something like this, okay. So when this value of a, when the value of a is greater than 0, you have this an upper facing parabola. When you have the value of a is less than 0, you have a downward facing parabola, right. Now coming back to our question, that why we put y is equal to 0. Now you need to see that this graph, whenever it cuts the x-axis, this is nothing but the solution of the equation. So these two are the roots बोल सकते हो, or you can also call this as solution, okay. So when you put the value of a or the root as a and b back to this equation, now this LHS will be equal to RHS. So this entire value is going to give you 0 itself. So LHS will be equal to RHS here. So in order to see here, so the y का value is given as 0, or we put it as 0, because मुझे पता है कि whenever this graph will cut the x-axis, y का value तो हमेशा 0 ही होना है, right? Okay, so the solution here is basically a and b. So whenever I go back and put a and b back to the equation, or in other term if I tell you a and b is the root or the solution, when I go back and put it into the equation, I get LHS equal to RHS, ठीक है. So because y का value यहाँ पे 0 है. I hope ये clear हो गया होगा. Now similarly, whenever the graph cuts the x-axis in both of these part, you will have y का value again 0, okay. So in order to make a polynomial, a equation, what we do is we put y का value as 0 itself, okay. Now moving ahead, now I have seen that if there is a quadratic equation ax square bx plus c is equal to 0, so the only condition for it to be a quadratic should be coefficient of x square should not be 0, right. Okay, so in that case x square is equal to 0 is also a quadratic equation. Now अब बोल रहे हो ये कैसे possible है sir, because all these stuff can be 0, right? The condition is a should not be equal to 0. So here the coefficient of x square is 1, not 0, right? So this also is a quadratic equation where the value of x square is more than 0. So यहाँ पे graph कैसे बन जाएगा? Graph will be an upper facing parabola, ठीक है, where it is touching the bottom. So 0 comma 0 is my point at which it touches the x axis, ठीक है. So this graph is nothing but y is equal to x square का graph, ठीक है. So I hope your basic understanding clear होगा. Now we're going to see the next part or the further part in the next video.